Welcome to Headpost.
That's exactly how I feel, because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out yesterday, and within less than 24 hours, I have put 12 hours into the game. I cannot put this down, and I have so much to say about it. It's an absolutely fantastic game with many improvements over the original. It has some issues, specifically with performance and resolution, but so far I am absolutely loving it. Now, I will openly be discussing the first 4 chapters of this game because I've done a lot of side quests, so that's where my playtime went into. There's no better place to start than the opening of the game, because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in its first chapter does the exact same thing that Final Fantasy VII Remake did so well, and it takes a small part of the original game and fleshes it out to give it more life. This Nibelheim flashback in the original, I believe, is like 30 or 40 minutes long, whereas here it's a couple of hours, and you get to see Cloud's history, Cloud's interactions with Tifa, Cloud's interactions with Sephiroth. You also get to play as Sephiroth, which is just really cool. And the second I got to this part, I was just hit by a wave of nostalgia. That is obviously something that runs through this game. It's just inherent in the Final Fantasy franchise, is that sense of nostalgia. And seeing Nibelheim fully realized in 3D with these beautiful graphics and experiencing that story again was just brilliant. I think how they delivered it, the way Cloud is retelling the story to his party, and as you're exploring, the party chime in and do little things. So there was one part where you get to choose if you want to go into Tifa's room or not, and depending on if you choose to go in or leave the room, Tifa will chime in and be like, "Oh, Cloud, I can't believe you did that. Why did you go into my room?" And then you go to her wardrobe and you're about to open the wardrobe and you get to choose if you want to open it or not. And she's like, "Oh my god, Cloud, I can't believe you did that." And it's just really cheesy, but very entertaining. And when all of this is done, you see Sephiroth turn into Sephiroth. You see him come to terms with what he actually is, and you get to see the rise of this villain. Almost kind of, Star Wars prequel-esque. And then right after, when the story is done, Aerith's back hurts, and then Tifa rubs it for them. And then they go off to a room together. And when this scene played, I was like, this is so Japanese. And the developers know exactly what they're doing. They do. I laughed. I'm sure everybody laughed. I'm sure some people did something else as well. But yes, that scene, caught me off guard anyway.
You weren't kidding, were you? Let's get you back to the room.
Now, outside of improvements to the core game, the biggest change is that this is now fully open world. You are exploring, you're riding on the back of chocobos. Can I just point out that Red 13 actually rides a chocobo like a human? And the first time I saw this, I actually stopped and I was just like, what the feck is going on here? He's sitting and he's holding the chocobo like the humans, and I don't know, I don't understand it, but it's still funny. But the open world side of this game is something I was concerned about, because I said it in my Final Fantasy VII Remake video, that when Square do open worlds, more often than not, they don't turn out well. And so far, I'm hooked on the open world. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, I love this world, I love the characters, but the combat is much improved. If you played the original, every single character sort of had their own thing. So Barrett was used to kill enemies at range. Tifa had loads of combos to build up stagger meters. And then Cloud was awful in the air. But now Cloud kind of feels a bit more like Sora, where you can actually get up into the air, you can dodge mid-air, you can keep yourself mid-air, you can do abilities mid-air, which deal like massive damage. Like the Braver ability actually deals increased damage when you're in the air, so it sort of incentivizes you to kind of figure out how to stay in the air, and you dodge, you hold square, you launch up into the air, and then you can start unleashing all your combos, building up your ATB meter, and then doing more combos, and it just feels so much better. And yes, there are loads of new things like synergy abilities where 2 characters work together to pull off an ability, or stuff like that, which feel great. But there is just a feeling here where they refined it. And I think ultimately this game could have had the same combat system, but just that refinement. It didn't need these synergy abilities, even though, they're welcome and I really enjoyed them. But it's just the feel. It's so much easier to fight enemies mid-air. It's so much more fluid on the ground. Everything just feels improved, and I think they did a great job. And reeling back to the open world stuff, I said it in my Remake review that I didn't realize back then how Yakuza-like Final Fantasy VII Remake is. And they really fleshed that out here. So, one thing I noticed in my replay of Remake, and it's the same here in Rebirth, there's a massive, gap in quality of certain things. Side quests have weird animations, but then you have these, super high budget cutscenes with, really flashy animations on some boss fights and stuff. And I don't mind that, because when they deliver the content itself is good. And they follow that here and they kind of build upon it. One of my favorite things about Yakuza Like a Dragon is that it was a very systems heavy RPG. That every single system led into each other and improved. If you did a mini game here, it will improve your combat here. And if you improved your combat, it will improve your relationship with this character. And they very clearly took a lot of inspiration here, where everything in the open world leans towards something. You find these wells that give you knowledge on the world, but also they give you crafting materials which are used to transmute things, so you can make potions, you can make items, and then them items are used in battle, and also them items can be equipped with materia, which I just love the materia system. And then when you get into the combat, you get AP, which increase your materia, level up your characters, but every single objective that you do increases your party's level, and there's just so many different layers and systems that so far, the open world objectives, aside from the proto-relic quest, they're actually really good, are typical open world stuff. Kill this enemy, activate this tower, all that sort of stuff. But it's how all of the systems lean into each other and how you're just constantly being rewarded for doing the stuff. And it's the same as Yakuza Like a Dragon, where everything just there was just a cohesion with everything. Everything just worked in synergy with each other. And it just meant that you always feel rewarded, even when you're doing the mundane shit. So there's just so much here to keep you going. And so far, I've done every side quest. I've completely filled out the map on everything. And I think I'll be doing a lot of that because it's just so fun. It's easy to get into this Zen-like mode of just exploring the world and clearing off the objectives, fighting enemies, getting upgrade materials, upgrading your weapons, transmuting stuff. And the materia system, again, materia is just so cool. And the proto-relic quests are these things where you're going around the world, going from one area to the next. And you have these continuous storylines where the first one, you're following these thugs around. One of them has belly jiggle physics and they're just complete idiots. And again, just taking it back to Yakuza, there's just a comedic tone around it that was just very entertaining. And then the second proto-relic quest, which I won't spoil, is just so weird and entertaining, and they are the best parts of the side content. Now, while I haven't got very deep with the story, I will talk about that in a full review I will do whenever I beat this game. Apparently it's like 50, 60, 70 hours plus, so we'll have to wait and see. That'll be a long time coming, but I can't wait to beat it. But there is one thing about this game that's kind of disappointing. So I've said this loads, especially on live streams, where I would be okay if the standard was 1080p 60 FPS. And I'm not sure if this game is 1080p. I think it might have some dynamic resolution scaling. But in performance mode, it holds a solid 60 FPS, which I really like. I also like the fact that we have the option. We have the fidelity and the performance mode. But the performance mode is extremely blurry. This is one of the blurry, I wouldn't say worst because it achieves its goal. It runs at a consistent 60 FPS from what I've played. But it looks so blurry that this is the first game where I was given the choice to play in performance or fidelity mode, and I'm actually choosing to play in fidelity. And the PS5 Pro can't come any sooner because this game proves that we really need an upgrade, because I would much rather play at 60 FPS. In 99.9% of cases, I will always choose 60 FPS. But here, I'm actually choosing fidelity mode, which is something I never thought I'd say, but yeah, this game is extremely blurry in fidelity mode, or in performance mode. Really, really crisp and clean in fidelity mode. And the 30 FPS is a good 30 FPS. I think the frame pacing, if I'm being technically right there, I'm not sure, is actually pretty solid. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is everything I wanted. I was afraid that the open world stuff would kind of feel a bit boring, but it's the fact that they built all these extra systems in the background that make it so that it feels like you're not wasting your time. Because if it didn't have the transmute, if you didn't upgrade your materia, if everything didn't lead into getting more materia or new items or getting some cool thing for your chocobo or, you know, something like that, then these open world objectives would have felt useless. They would have felt boring. And I understand you don't have to do them, but if the game is built around it, it kind of feels like a wasted opportunity. Where so far, it doesn't feel like a wasted opportunity. I feel well rewarded for doing the open world objectives. And it's just cool actually seeing the rest of the world, because I understand the first game was set in Midgar and there's not really much you could do in terms of like visual diversity with the areas. But here, like, I'm in a grasslands, I'm on this like rocky mountain, I'm in like a mithril cave. Like, already the game is very diverse visually and I really appreciate that. But yes, the only issue with making this video is that I can't play more Rebirth while I edit it. So I really appreciate you watching. I genuinely adore this game. I think it's definitely worth buying off the first 12 hours. I'm really enjoying it. So yes, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. I'm going to have a full big boy review whenever I get this done. Loads more reviews coming out next month. March is going to be a massive month for games. I really appreciate you watching. If you liked it, I mean, give it a like. Again, I'm not your dad. Do I care? I do care a little bit. I'm going to be honest. I would like if you liked the video and you shared it. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. So you do you. Like, dislike, comment, delete the video, share this video around, do whatever you want to do. And I hope you all have a great weekend playing Rebirth, because I love it.